look, there is much of the media that is trying to reverse course here. And it's subtle in their reversal of course if you didn't pay attention to the way that the last 3 weeks of the election in particular were litigated.
It was really deranged.
Crazy.
It was really, really deranged.
Yeah, it was the news broadcast version of a contrast ad. And if you've worked in this business, worked on a campaign, or consumed a lot of
That's a good comparison.
Campaign ads over the years, a contrast ad is where they try to squeeze in 2 messages into a 30-second ad. So you get 15 minutes of
50 seconds.
15 seconds of rainbows and sunshine. Yeah. And then it's and here comes the turn. Yeah. That would be great if not for piece of candidate X.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please.
Just a catching strays over here.
You're in for a hell of a show.
Keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs.
It's time for our main event.
Welcome. Good Tuesday to you from the Ruthless Friday program. Josh Holmes, along with Comfortably Smug, Michael Duncan, John Ashbrook, left to right across your radio dial. As always, fellas, we came up shy on a Ruthless parlay on Sunday. And it's all thanks to our friend at the end here.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is they call them the Bungles for a reason, because they bungle everything. Ashbrook's always talking about, oh, my team is so great. Your team won. Duncan's team won. Broncos won. And then, yet again, Joey B in the clown car.
You guys think it was painful for you.
Yeah.
Welcome to my childhood.
The best part, and for those of you who haven't joined in discussion about the Ruthless Parlay, is that we have a bit of a brotherhood activity that we do on NFL Sundays where we all put a little wager on a 4-team bet. Mine be the Vikings, the Broncos for Smug, the Colts for Duncan, and the Bengals. And generally speaking, this sort of hits once a year. But when it hits, it's a big payday.
It's a big win. You're covered for a few years.
It's a big. When it hit earlier this year, it also missed on a Monday night game because of the Bungles, and so we went in with great enthusiasm yesterday, as there were 3 early windows, as the NFL likes to say. They came up in good shape.
Bo Nix tried his hardest to make it happen. I was like, wow, this kid's actually doing something.
Looks good.
And then we waited on Sunday night with bated breath for the Bungles.
And they did it again. They blew it.
I have nothing to say for myself. The team needs to start rebuilding, and it starts on defense, and hopefully next year we'll have a better product.
Yeah. Well, look, we're post-election, and there's all kinds of nonsense and stuff, I think most of it which we covered last week, about all of the frantic activity that everybody's doing to try to fill an administration and get nominations out there and all of that. But you got to watch sports at some level and sort of provide some distance so you're not losing your mind, right? And so we like to do that on the weekends.
God knows you don't want to be like the left right now, who's 24/7. They're having panic attacks nonstop.
It's true. It's they're gonna all end up in mental institutions.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
Project 2025. Page 7, Section 3.
There is a new account that popped up over the weekend, Libs of Blue Sky.
Oh,
Have you
God.
guys seen this? They're
It's
pulling
terrific.
they're pulling the best takes out of Blue Sky and posting them on X so the rest of the world can see the lunacy that's happening over there on this new site. And it just gets worse and worse and worse. So do yourself a favor, follow Libs of Blue Sky.
And real quick on that subject, we didn't even have this planned, but I don't know if you guys saw this. So as we all know, the libs are trying to migrate over to Blue Sky. They want their lesson from being in an echo chamber is to build a bigger echo chamber.
they had
and
no
lock themselves
idea
in.
the opinions of anybody else in this country, and so their idea was, okay, now that we've been subjected to that, let's winnow the field even further.
100%. Let's just go into our own padded room where it's just us. And Blue Sky sends this message out that they're like, we're receiving something like 30,000 reports an hour on someone used.
It's like child trafficking and stuff.
But
right?
that's the problem, is they're getting record amounts of improper child material. I can't even say it on YouTube, or else we'll get locked up. But you can't. Over there, they're posting it nonstop, And it's like the most unsurprising thing. It's like the libs get a website and they're like, what are we going to do? Just be total degenerates.
It's just such a predictable response.
Yeah.
So this all goes back. Obviously, they're having hard times after this election, but they've held Elon responsible for all of this because they had what was the largest discussion amongst people involved in politics, safely and securely monitored and edited for content during a previous regime. And now when Elon bought and turned it to X, turned Twitter to X, it just became a First Amendment platform where everybody is able to talk. They didn't care for that, and now they hold him responsible for opinions that are not their own.
It's what they really freaked out because everyone was allowed to express themselves. It's not like it became a conservative website. You had we have a game based around Jen Rubin and company saying crazy takes.
Well, we're the victims here.
They spent the last 4 years on Twitter saying anyone who questioned the results of the election in 2020 was an election denier. And I've actually seen the greatest irony, and that is libs getting banned on Blue Sky for saying 2024 was rigged.
That's awesome.
Well, it hasn't even stopped there. And again, we didn't put this in our show sheet, but it's worth mentioning. What's happening in Pennsylvania right now is truly outrageous.
People genuinely need to go to jail over this.
Yeah. So, that's my take, is that we spent 2 years basically trying to sort through this elaborate conspiracy that people suggested were trying to steal in the 2020 election, whether it's the electors thing or whether it was people questioning results. Like they were bringing a ton of trials and convictions and things like that. And now in Pennsylvania, you have a Supreme Court ruling that says basically the counties can't count ballots that are unsigned or not dated correctly because, after all, it's written in Pennsylvania state statute that they can't be, and it didn't take a novel decision to sort of read the statute and say, like, look, you guys made this illegal, so it should be illegal. Well, that is not going to stop the Bucks County Board of Elections that suggested they're not going to listen to any of that. They're going to begin just sort of counting ballots willy-nilly, which only is an issue because there is the Senate race that has been settled, and this has been called for Dave McCormick, the Republican. They are trying to eat away at what is a 20,000 vote lead at this point. And it's gotten to a point where people should go to jail over this.
Yes. Like, openly, the lady who's in Bucks County, the Board of Electors, was like, I don't care that it's illegal. We're going to count them anyways. Straight up says this on video. That's how brazen it is for them.
Yeah.
They feel so secure in a system that will protect them and allow them to do this kind of stuff. That's what, I saw Chris Ostavide even tweet. He was like, people are going to jail over this. Straight up.
They should. They should. You heard it here first. Another thing that we just sort of couldn't completely ignore is just the media comeuppance.
Yeah.
The whole idea that these guys had probably the most partisan close of this campaign that any corporate media collectively has ever had. Mm-hmm. And they're trying to figure out how do we stay in business, essentially?
It's a tough question for MSNBC.
MSNBC, CNN, CBS, I imagine, is having horrible internal discussions over all of this, but it probably goes to just about anybody. But you may have seen an effort afoot of some to try to get into the good graces of the incoming president-elect, Donald Trump. But we thought it might be okay if we just took a minute and remind people how they got into the bad graces to begin with.
Right.
Of course, Morning Joe is specifically what we're talking about. This happened Monday. But just a few weeks ago, Morning Joe, who now faithfully went down to Mar A Lago to sort of tip the cap and try to pretend like they're all friends again. Here's what they had to say just several weeks ago in clip 1, please.
People in the media have a responsibility to really tune out the voices of the haters, of the people that are constantly double and triple checking and shilling for him and suggesting that somehow they're being biased, bending over backwards, treating him like a normal candidate. He's not a normal candidate. He is running to end American democracy as we know it. He's an authoritarian who a court in Colorado 2 days ago ruled that he led an insurrection against the United States government. He's charged with leading schemes to help overthrow the United States government. So if they want to frame it that way, that's fine. If you want to be fair, then you will frame this Joe Biden being the candidate that supports American democracy, and Donald Trump, a candidate who supports a new form of government here that's authoritarian.
Oh, okay. Is that it? I mean, that's just sort of his view and message to the rest of the media about how it is that election should have been framed up, and that was back in June. Can we go to clip 2, please?
Do you not call it a threat to democracy when Donald Trump says that he wants to execute the chairman of the Joint Chiefs for treason? Is that not a threat? Saying that your vice president deserves lynching, saying that to your legal counsel on January 6th, is that not a threat to democracy? Undermining Americans' confidence in voting? When you know, because the Wall Street Journal editorial page has been very clear. And I will say, have done the right thing repeatedly, calling out Donald Trump's lies when it comes to widespread election fraud.
Like, who's he? I mean, you know the crazy people he's talking to, right?
They're just talking amongst themselves.
It is. It's just like one little liberal silo, little stovepipe of information.
Every editor at the Washington Post and the New York Times, every producer of every cable news show. I mean, that is the audience for that.
It is.
Like, we all have to get on the same page.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you, me, Joe Scarborough, I'm going to tell you. So now Trump wins the election in very convincing fashion. Let's hear clip 3, please, if you don't mind.
Joe and I went to Mar A Lago to meet personally with President-elect Trump. It was the first time we have seen him in 7 years.
Now, we talked about a lot of issues, including abortion, mass deportation, threats of political retribution against political opponents, and media outlets. We talked about that a good bit. And it's going to come as no surprise to anybody who watches this show, has watched it over the past year or over the past decade, that we didn't see eye to eye on a lot of issues, and we told him so.
In this meeting, President Trump was tearful. He was upbeat. He seemed interested in finding common ground with Democrats on some of the most divisive issues. And for those asking why we would go speak to the president-elect during such fraught times, especially between us, I guess I would ask back, why wouldn't we?
So we found common ground with Hitler.
I want to give. So I have some insider info on this situation. Right?
Okay.
From
Journo buddies.
No. This is from inside Mar A Lago. I was told during that meeting, first off, that it was incredibly short. It's not like they're trying to make it look like this was some kind of a summit. Trump was like, okay, give 2 minutes to these idiots, whatever. And apparently, Joe and Mika are genuinely afraid that they're going to get sent to Gitmo. I'm being dead serious. They expressed, and I'm being completely serious about this.
So they actually believe
they really think that they have a genuine fear that Trump is going to lock them up.
They're like, so I got to get out.
This whole meeting was them basically being like, hey, President Trump, we were just joking about that stuff. You don't have to ship us to Gitmo. And I hope to God he was like, I do. I made a promise to the American people. We all agreed on Project 2025. You're getting locked up, Joe and Mika. But it's one thing for them to be these insane propagandists, but it got to the point where they drank the Kool-Aid themselves. And they were like, please don't send us to jail, which is why I say, President Trump, just do it. You have to do it. They force your hand. I know you didn't want to.
Send a message.
But yeah, you got to send a message. Send him to Gitmo.
A free time slot on MSNBC will open up, and you can do with it as you may.
But how awesome is that? They were like, please don't send us to Gitmo.
Dude. It just goes to show you the brain damage.
That's
involved.
the thing. It's scary.
Yeah.
The left has genuinely radicalized. I've been keeping a close eye on these tweets coming from them and that lunatic Rachel Bitkofer who runs one of these scam packs of being like, I want all my followers to know you are fighting Hitler. Do whatever is necessary.
Oh my goodness.
There's a serious problem with radicalization in this country with what the left has done to their people.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, that's basically the bifurcation of how liberal media is reacting. It's either that, what Smug just described, or it's a self-preservation thing because they see the ratings going down, and we'll talk about this more later in the show. So those are the two paths. It's radicalization or self-preservation.
They care not a whit about informing their audience
No.
of what
That's not on the list. That's not on the list at all.
Not on their list at all. Remember, we're getting very, very close to Thanksgiving, fellas. We made an offer several weeks ago to those of you that we had maybe a table setting for you.
Yeah.
A little something that we thought might be of interest as we get to Thanksgiving. You'll recall we have our Thanksgiving episode coming, which we do annually, and it's one of the favorites
It's the best.
of the listeners of the Variety program. But we offered some napkins
Yeah.
that it just helpfully showed the electoral count, county by county, just sort of like something you can set the
It's a
table
helpful
with
guide.
and set the tone with.
Conversation starter.
Things have flown off the shelves.
Yeah. They're currently sold out.
We really went through all of them.
Yeah, we went through all of them. Now, I mean, I've been told, that we're looking at maybe perhaps bringing those back, but you won't know for sure if we have them back in stock until that Thanksgiving spectacular.
Well,
episode.
it is spectacular.
Yeah.
And it is happening. It will, as always, be released Thanksgiving morn.
Yeah. So wake up early, pour yourself a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Sit back.
Maybe a little Bailey's in there.
Maybe a little
Jameson or something.
Jameson too.
Yeah.
I want the high test.
Yeah.
You got to be ready.
Well, you got to be ready, especially this one.
And you need to do what you can to get Duncan back to his basement on that printing press and pulling every napkin out of his own pantry and labeling them
I
accordingly.
can't believe we're sold out. How did this happen? Is this Duncan or Wolf? Who's to blame here?
This-
Someone take
Well,
responsibility.
it's a supply
for this.
chain. Frankly, there was an enormous amount of napkins that were ordered. It was like
I've been working like I'm on Gutenberg's printing
Yeah.
press.
This guy should just be like knocking out napkins.
it was suggested that we had gotten to a point where we may actually have to have all hands on deck stuffing.
Yeah, like
And
a
we've-
boiler room.
We've
Yeah.
run out of capacity to actually deliver these things. And so, like, we need to do it manually.
If anyone can do it, I think you guys got it in you.
I haven't lived until I've seen you stuff an envelope full of napkins and ship it off to one of our lucky.
I mean, folks have seen this thing, right? Because I'm having it on my Thanksgiving table.
For sure.
It's a must. It's a must. You gotta all of us worked so hard. All of the listeners, you all went and did your part. You voted. This is the time for the victory lap.
Yeah,
this is what it's all for.
And it's a key part of our Thanksgiving message this time around. So get on board. We'll retrofit these things for the holidays so you can have them for
Christmas.
Yeah. And
New Year's.
And, it's just
Easter.
maybe a
Literally every holiday.
4th of July.
4th of July.
Yeah. It's just a little different topper on each one. It's
Literally
good.
anytime a liberal's coming over.
Any family gathering, but weddings. I mean, bar mitzvahs.
Yeah.
Whatever.
All events.
You should have them all. All right, so we're going to get more into the media thing and, why is it that they're doing this? Why is it self-preservation? Is it, the ratings thing? I don't know what it is, but we're going to get to all of that right after this.
This holiday season, millions of families across America will rely on credit card rewards to visit their loved ones. So why are D.C. politicians trying to pass a bill that would end credit card rewards, making it more expensive for families to be together? The Durbin-Marshall credit card bill is a big government handout to corporate megastores that makes them more money, but eliminates travel rewards for you. Tell Congress to guard your card, because Americans lose when politicians choose. Learn more at guardyourcard.com.
Okay, so look, there is much of the media that is trying to reverse course here. And it's subtle in their reversal of course if you didn't pay attention to the way that the last 3 weeks of the election in particular were litigated. We had evening news programs, things that are basically sort of supposedly sacrosanct in the journalism world. Is like, we'll tell you about a weather event. We'll tell you about a feel-good story about some guy with a dog, and then we'll say, here are nominations, confirmations, here's the news, and these are what these people are doing. Like, that's generally the way those things were set up. Well, the last 3 weeks of the election, they were like, unbelievable. It's like Kamala Harris is out sharing her joyful message with the world. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is lying to people again. Look at the angry look on his face. Threats to democracy.
It was really deranged.
Crazy.
It was really, really deranged.
Yeah, it was the news broadcast version of a contrast ad. And if you've worked in this business, worked on a campaign, or consumed a lot of
That's a good comparison.
Campaign ads over the years, a contrast ad is where they try to squeeze in 2 messages into a 30-second ad. So you get 15 minutes of
30 seconds.
15 seconds of rainbows and sunshine, and then it's and here comes the turn. Yeah. That would be great if not for piece of shit candidate X. And it's that's what news broadcast became the last couple of weeks of the election.
We used to do hilarious fake ads with that.
We should bring that back at some point.
We should do that. We remember a few.
Yeah, very funny.
But that was essentially what news broadcasts were. And so, you look at what's happening now in New York Times of all places. Has a story of viewers flee MSNBC and flock to Fox News in wake of election. Interesting, right?
Painful to type those words.
The two sides shall never meet, right? I mean, there's nobody who's watching MSNBC that is anything but in this just cylinder of garbage of all time. And there's the fact that those people have gotten out, maybe they're doing a self-inventory, maybe I really don't know what's happening in this country. Well, anyway, Rachel Maddow opened her MSNBC show on Monday night with a sobering 26-minute monologue.
Good God.
26 minutes?
Between deep sighs and the occasional shake of the head, Miss Maddow went through the people President-elect Donald J. Trump had named to his new administration. To say the least, she was not a fan of the selections.
26 minutes. You got to get wound up.
Yeah.
For 26 minutes of one take, camera roll, I'm about to go off.
I mean,
just there's a lot of problems. There's a lot of trauma right there being processed.
It is. It's almost like watching some kind of a psychologist.
It's a psychotic breakdown is what it is. 26 minutes of here's who's been nominated. Folks, here's who's being nominated to Treasury Secretary. 26 minutes of me losing my mind now.
Maybe take a beat. Yeah. It was anyway.
Someone call a doctor.
The Liberal Network's highest rated program drew 1.3 million viewers on Monday, about 1 million shy of her October average, according to Nielsen. In a crucial ratings metric, viewers under the age of 54, it was the least watched edition of the show since April of 2022.
Wow.
Ooh, that performance mirrors much of what has been happening at MSNBC in the week since Donald Trump's election victory. MSNBC has averaged 550,000 viewers since Election Day, a 39% decline compared with the network's average in October. Fellas, this is there's been all kinds of talk about MSNBC in particular and the idea that Comcast may just sort of try to chop it off from the rest of their NBC News assets and just sell it. It's a distressed asset.
And that's the thing is, so these numbers are actually far higher than in reality, where they're giving that 550,000. That's across all shows through the week. I think it was Greenwald who had these numbers, who's breaking it down. Their weekend programming shows don't crack 50,000 viewers. There's more people watching our show on YouTube than an MSNBC broadcast at this point.
Well, even in their best days, that's true.
That's unreal.
They have completely collapsed. But just the other side of the coin, Fox News. It has grown by 21% since last Wednesday with an average of 3.3 million viewers, according to Nielsen. Wow. Its total day audience has jumped 38%. This is a great quote. In the wake of the result, people are probably turning to self-care, said Martin Kaplan, who runs the Norman Lear Center at the University of Southern California. It's like post-traumatic stress disorder of some kind. You don't want to go back to the scene of the explosion right away.
I mean, it's funny, but I think that's 100% true.
Yeah, I think it is too.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think this desperate 26-minute monologue is MSNBC trying to double down back to the bifurcation we talked about earlier. MSNBC hosts Mika and Joe are doing self-preservation, what's she doing? Radicalization. She's trying to get the audience back ginned up and engaged and get those numbers back to where they want to be. But like, as somebody who consumes a lot of like podcasts about, let's say, like a football team I like.
Yeah.
We have a devastating loss.
Yeah, you
I
can't. Yeah.
I can't on Monday. I can't on Tuesday. I can't listen to it on Wednesday.
That's
on Thursday, I can't. But on Friday, I'll finally listen to like, all right, what's our matchup on Sunday?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you want to see
You
a
have
little
to take
something
some time off to sort of like do some self-care. So I get
Meanwhile,
it.
for Ashbrook, it's like nonstop PTSD sports podcast, right?
It's also indicative of the fight that's brewing among Democrats. You have the normie Dems who are like, oh, maybe we missed something here. Maybe we should have talked about the border. Maybe we should have been more concerned about the economy. And then you have MSNBC saying, no. Men should play women's sports. They're like double down on the insanity.
Yeah.
And the regular Dems are like, we just lost because of that. And this is a fight among them that is not going away anytime soon. And I feel like it's one of the fringe benefits of a Donald Trump presidency.
It sure is.
I really wonder, like, you know, for seeing, it's almost like you could straight up 1-for-1 move these viewers when they say that MSNBC has had this great of a decline. It says 39% decline. Fox is up 38%. Like, yes, by percentage is very different, but still, I imagine a significant number of those people who've left MSNBC and are now tuning into Fox have the very rational realization that, like, okay, well, I was listening to this news channel. They were telling me that Democrats had it in the bag.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, we could win every state. This is going to be a romp for Kamala. And they're like, so I was clearly lied to. Meanwhile, this network wasn't feeding me 24/7. Kamala's going to win. Let's give them a shot.
Yeah, particularly for the news programs, right? I mean, if you look at, like, you know, any of the morning stuff that Fox is doing, America's Newsroom, things like that, or Brett Baer's show at 6 o'clock, like that's real news, and they're telling you real things that are happening, which doesn't happen on MSNBC.
Like, if you saw that Brett Baer interview with Kamala, it would be very jarring and eye-opening. If you were like an MSNBC viewer, you'd be like, wow, she's a complete empty.
She's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that this is more acute. The reason that this is so bad, I mean, you're going to get some drop-off after an election that doesn't go your way when you're sort of more or less in a more favorable condition. But it's so acute because of what we've been talking about the last couple of weeks about what it takes to get your average everyday Democrat into fighting shape to vote for somebody like Kamala Harris. Like, you literally need to poison their water. You know what I mean? You
Takes
need
a lot of brain damage to make that choice.
You need to convince people of absolutely insane things.
Yeah.
He's Hitler. He's going to end our democracy.
That is it.
This is, you know, all of the things that they were like just sort of in happenstance doing throughout the course of the day. Like, you get to the end and it's none of those things. You're going to take a hit for it.
No, trust us, everybody. The Ann Selzer poll is the gold standard. It's proof that she is going to win in Alaska.
I mean, that is, I mean, like, all those, when you bring up these individual pieces of evidence, it was just, I mean, this is a very damning situation for these media companies.
Yeah.
Like I was seeing video afterwards, you know, when we're all spiking the football, of like these libs on video being like, this Ann Selzer poll really nails it. You know, if we're taking Iowa, it's over. We're going to get like 400 electoral votes. Like, there's got to be a reckoning for these channels. When they're losing this many viewers, it's not just about financial, though, for these greedy bastards. It probably is all financial. But, like, yes, you've tarnished your reputation, but you got to do something. You got to do something. Because now, I mean, everyone sees what a mess you've created for yourselves just lying to people.
Totally. They're not confined to just them, and I've got a story about CNN here in a minute, but I want to wrap up the MSNBC portion by saying, like, look, there was credible discussion about whether they were going to chop MSNBC off and try to sell it for parts. If you're in the media business, you know, I mean, look, you have cable contracts that allow for your slots with all the various cable providers, and that is probably worth something. Other than that, what are you playing for the camera equipment?
Yeah.
Like, it's not like there's
Not
nothing
a lot
there.
of value to unlock there.
There literally can't be a single person rolling around HQ that you're like, yeah, you can stay on. I mean, it just.
And that's the other thing is, like, you know, I'm sure many people listening to this have experience in the workplace. If you've got like one or two woke people that you gotta avoid because they're like a landmine, it's like walking on eggshells around them. Imagine everyone in the building is like that.
You got the morale.
I mean, I think I have a good way for them to cut all the costs, but preserve the content of MSNBC for us to be able to enjoy.
Yeah.
And I think you shut the entire thing down except for Maddow. And she does that 26-minute monologue once a week, and you just put it on Peacock. You put it on the streaming platform. You take your costs down 99%, but we still get that weekly brainworms that we need to provide content for our show.
It's a very, very thought. Maybe a little sprinkling of Joy Reid.
Yeah.
Just a little something in there.
Well, now we're getting greedy.
I mean, honestly, Duncan brings up a really good point. If they repackage this, right? Instead of trying to be like, we are the progressive channel, be like, this is where we laugh at the progressives. And just have them do the shows as usual.
Just like full
everyone
satire.
laugh at Crazy Maddow.
Yeah.
More people would tune in because we were all watching,
turn it into satire.
what was it? I think it was your buddy, Jesse Rodriguez over at MSNBC, who was like, our ratings are up like 20% for Election Day because we all tuned in to watch them cry. Right?
I want MSNBC to do what happened to Keith Olbermann after he left.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I want all the content, just put it on Peacock.
Yes.
And just the craziest stuff for a 26-minute monologue, and then leave us alone.
Yeah, and
maybe red zone that thing a little bit so we can hop around.
Which is a great idea. I love the satire angle. So you can basically end up with live from MSNBC. It's Saturday night.
collect a week's worth of stuff and then red zone it.
Right.
Yeah.
Great idea. God, that's a really good idea. Maybe we should buy the thing.
Yeah,
for
right?
parts.
You know what? We should.
We might.
Jeff, yes, if you're listening.
we have a chance to do the funniest thing ever.
We're just the guys to do it. But CNN, all right. So CNN boss Mark Thompson, this is according to New York Post, to lay off hundreds after the Election Day ratings wipeout. Ratings challenge CNN is reportedly set for a major bloodbath, with boss Mark Thompson expected to lay off high-priced on-air talent as a part of wide-ranging layoffs. The cable network, which lagged behind rivals MSNBC and Fox News during the election night coverage, will implement layoffs that will impact hundreds of employees across the organization, according to Puck News.
Is that why you were down Ashbrook? your buddies, all your journal buddies, they're going to be out on the street?
Well,
he seemed a little down. I thought it might be because of these CNN cuts.
Here's the thing that I find so interesting about the CNN. Like you listened to our thing last week about they wouldn't let us have Scott on.
Yeah.
And because we were a competitor or whatever. But there's a larger issue here in that they seem to go through this on an annual basis, at least over the last 5 years, without anything changing.
Yeah.
Right? First, it was Chris Licht. Remember? He was like, dude, we're going to have to go get our credibility back. Like, this is absolutely insane that we've got all this stuff going on. He's there for like 9 months, and they're like, get out of here.
Employees are like, no credibility.
Like, no. And then they're like, all right, he's gone, so let's bring Stelter back. The potato needs to be back. We need some, some of the good stuff that used to make CNN truly unwatchable. and like that obviously didn't work. And so now they're in this whole situation again. Like, at what point are they actually going to change something?
Yeah.
No, it's just Groundhog Day, dude. Yeah. They spend the run-up the last 90 days of every election getting everything wrong, limiting their information silo, just the most lunatic left-wing stuff, and then they act surprised after every election. Right?
Yeah.
Like, and that's it. It's like they're trying to get right for that Q4 investor call. Yeah. Like, here's how we're going to improve. And then they hang up the phone. And they're like, all right, so we're going to go back to being crazy,
we're
right?
We're going to do the same thing, right?
It's just insane. And I mean, it's not just the host. It's not just the story selection. I mean, Harry Inton over there, who does their polling and analysis stuff. And I think a lot of the stuff he says is pretty smart.
Yeah, he's pretty solid.
But I mean, if we're going to hold MSNBC accountable, we're going to hold Ann Stelter accountable for, like, by the way, she's retiring now, so there'll be no accountability for that dog shit Iowa poll. But like, Harry Inton did this whole thing in the last run up to the election day, for all of his reasons why like things will look good for the Democrats. And some of the stuff he was saying, he's like, well, a Republican has never been undersampled in polls for 3 straight presidential election years. And he said stuff like, well, the Democrats were actually undersampled in the midterm in 2022. And it's like, well, Yeah, on paper, all of those things are true, but I don't know what Mitt Romney's 2012 turnout has to do with Donald Trump's coalition. And then you look at 2022, and it's like Donald Trump wasn't on the ballot. So it's like you might as well just like read the entrails, right. You know, like this is the 8th century. You're not actually conducting polling. All you're doing is managing the mood. And
that's it.
That's a good
of your
point.
audience.
That's a really good
That's
point.
it.
Like everything he was saying was
providing a fighting chance that I could be wrong about the rest of these numbers.
But it's absolute bullshit. And then lo and behold, on election day, they're fucking wrong. Obviously, they would be.
Again, the greatest moment was when they had that map and they're like, okay, now let's look at the counties where Kamala's doing better.
Nothing.
Wait, there's
Zero.
not one.
Zero.
Nothing.
Oh, look, we missed the Trump coalition again. Yeah, because it's a completely new electorate.
Right.
I want to hear Ashbrook's thoughts on CNN being cut. Like, how are your friends doing? How the call's been over there?
I think they need to cut 50.2% of their staff and replace them with Trump supporters. Not just Republicans, MAGA people.
Yeah.
Because you can't just say, oh, I got the conservative. We're bringing Jen Rubin in to give the conservative point of view. You have to bring Trump supporters into that network for decision-making purposes, or you're going to miss the mark.
It's crazy that what he's saying would sound crazy.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, it's very obviously true and necessary.
Like, over half the country believes that, and they're like, don't let a single one into this building.
Yeah. No, I mean, they just don't. They're so far afield from where the mainstream of the American electorate is that they can't even envision a scenario where, like, people like us exist. Mm-hmm. But it's part of the reason why this is, despite their full campaign, all of these networks and more, their full campaign in the final stretch didn't have an iota of an impact. Where, like, you know, millions of you who listen to the Ruthless Variety program went and voted early and showed us your shirts while you did it. Like, it's changing. The media is changing. So, I mean, look, it leads us to our question. And remember, you got to like and subscribe. All this stuff. Like and subscribe if you wish to opine, right?
That's exactly
Can
right.
you come up with that, Ashbrook?
We did.
As Trump is thinking, he's now named Carolyn Leavitt as his press secretary. As he's thinking about how to put together a press room, do you not do it in a way that accurately reflects how people consumed information? Mm-hmm. They clearly didn't do it through the New York Times, the Washington Post, MSNBC, CNN, AP. You didn't. He wouldn't be there if they did. He wouldn't be. And there's a whole bunch of new stuff. So I guess our question to you guys is, should Trump and Carolyn Leavitt kick the mainstream media out of the briefing room altogether?
Great idea. And I cannot wait for our audience's replies on this, because they like shows like the Ruthless Variety program where we report, you decide.
Another thing you came up with.
I think like it is a lighthearted thing, but like maybe they should do it. Honestly, I mean, any network that called you Hitler, you should now have to be interrogated by.
Yeah.
When you know all they're doing is trying to create content for viral moments and to write books.
That's
these
it.
people did it the first 4 years. And then they spend the run up to this election saying you're going to end democracy, and then they want to participate in democracy with you as president. Go fuck yourself. Get out. Pack your stuff.
And Duncan is 100% right, because folks might remember during the first Trump administration, you had Jim Acosta, who basically made it his job to just like derail any kind of information exchange, because the purpose of you know, the White House having this briefing room and press conferences is to convey information to the public. And Acosta was like, no, this is about me. He'd get up, he'd grandstand, and then he has his book come out. And then during the Biden administration, he basically is out of a job.
Yeah.
Like, he's not there anymore because they knew, they're like, okay, this is cuddle time with the old man. Everyone just try to be nice to Biden.
Or you give it to him on a probationary period, and you're like, no, not Acosta this time. Like, give us somebody who you say is going to handle the news and be fair.
Yeah.
And let's give him a shot. I guarantee they won't be able to do it. But if it's fucking Jim Acosta, what do we owe Jim Acosta at this point?
Jail.
Nothing.
Nothing. Jail. But, I mean, look, even if we're just... I don't think anybody, I mean, maybe there are some people who will be like, oh, let's just have state TV. And I don't want that.
I don't know, it might be
nobody
nice.
wants
We
that.
can give it a shot.
But if you listen to, I know, Smug, you'd be very. But if you listen to like what
True state TV has never been tried.
Russia Today is like,
We're doing it. We're trying.
but if you listen to the conservative shows like ours, it's not state TV. We actually ask real questions. We have a real part of the debate. If you listen to Joe Rogan, that's not state TV. But this is increasingly where people are getting their news and information. So, like, maybe a press room ought to reflect where people are getting their information.
Right.
And like, you know, the pushback will be like, oh, it's state TV. It's not. It's not. If they were just a little bit more thoughtful or respectful about the way they did it, rather than just trying to like insulate their own careers and make themselves famous on the backs of people having to watch this shit, they would maybe find themselves back in the briefing room.
Mm-hmm. And you know, highly respected broadcaster in front of the program, Hugh Hewitt, had the suggestion, why not Megyn Kelly in the briefing room?
Oh, yeah,
should
idea.
be.
Her audience is probably 20 times the size of MSNBC's.
Although she's got a great gig. I don't think she wants to go sit in that briefing room.
Who wants to be there, right?
She doesn't go, you know, no, she doesn't. We'll put spaghettis in there if they're kind enough to ask. All right, so when we come back, we're going to get to your comments about President Trump's cabinet picks, the show we did last Thursday. Very interesting set of responses that you've provided, so we'll get to all of that right after this.
All right, so I just got to point out that my friends at Americans for Prosperity made a huge difference this year. AFP volunteers made millions of voter contacts, which is absolutely mind-blowing. They are the largest, most effective ground game operation in the country to defend and advance the conservative movement. But now that the election is behind us, the hard work of turning electoral victory into policy wins begins. And the grassroots army with Americans for Prosperity will again be in the thick of it. We have an incredible opportunity next year to get the country back on track, but it means we're all going to have to roll up our sleeves and get to work. If you're ready to join a winning team making a difference across the country, check out my friends at AFP, and you can learn more at americansforprosperity.org.
Okay, so cabinet picks. We asked you, who is your favorite so far? Real wide range of answers on all this, and I think we covered a number of them. Clearly, there have been a few since last Thursday that we've added to and have thoughts on, but like, you know, where the jumping off point for the listeners, there was a good number of them, and of course, the media set their hair on fire about all of them, but your information was actually interesting, so to do that, we always start with a voice.
Okay, first one comes from Nanku. And Nanku writes, favorite cabinet pick, Elon Vivek. Far and away, I hear Vivek's plan to decimate literally the D.C. bureaucrats and marveled at its originality, boldness, and intelligence. And it could definitely work. Add that to the vision and genius of Elon, and it will change everything. Second place, Tom Homan.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Love all the rest. As for Matt Gaetz, I think he will be fine. But if he doesn't get confirmed, he will be an Overton window pick, easing the way for our next nominee. That's Nancy in Orange County, California.
Interesting, interesting. Had a few that sort of reflected that point of view. Old man, what do we got next?
This is from Tracy Dufresne. She writes, Pete Hegseth is my favorite pick. I started spontaneously laughing, thinking of all the higher-ups and DOD dreaming of the position, and then hearing this. Yeah, the collective gasp out of Great Falls, Virginia.
Oh, man. Totally.
So good.
I'm not going to add that 10th garage this year on the weapons system.
Time the soldiers are taken care of by somebody who remembers what it's like.
Yep.
Thank you for saying that.
Yep.
Totally.
Recruitment and retention will go up.
I agree 100%.
Really, really well said. Smuggles, what do we have next?
And like I always say, like and subscribe if you wish to opine.
That's
So,
you always say that.
This
Yeah.
is from Wendy Pringle. Wendy writes, absolutely love Tom Homan as border czar. Me too. Pulls no punches and owns everyone who comes at him. Confident he'll get the job done. Same with Pete Hegseth as defense secretary. He'll get the job done without allowing political-leaning interference. Also love the eye-opening documentary, The Miseducation of America. That's the thing is, you know, in Duncan's comment too, they alluded to it, but when you have someone who's done the work and he has, you know, essentially dedicated his life to helping veterans, that alone is going to raise morale. It's going to raise retention. It's going to let people know that you sign up for the military, you've got someone there who's looking out for you.
And it's just a huge part of what our government needs to do that doesn't get talked about enough, and that is taking care of America's veterans. Turns out when you fight wars for 20 years, there's a lot of guys who come back who need help. Yeah. And like we have to do, we owe that to them. We have to do a better job of it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm glad we asked that question because what we like to do is take a sampling that sort of reflects a broader point of view. That was common. The Hegseth thing, which immediately is dismissed by the D.C. sort of glitterati, seems to be a favorite amongst listeners. And then Tom Homan, which is very predictable to us. If you campaign on doing something, you know the man is dedicated to doing the job of closing the border, and then you put somebody like that who you have no questions about, like that really locks the door on the campaign promise, right? And people love that shit.
Yeah. He's just like built for this.
Yeah.
He is so good for the job.
It's so good. So good. All right. Well, thank you for your comments. We'll read more when we get back Thursday from your comments about whether the mainstream media should be locked out of the press briefing room. But before we get to anything else in the show, we want to thank Lumen. Yeah. Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath. And I know, Smug, you've been really big into this thing.
Yeah, it's right here. That's Lumen. It's a tiny little device. All you have to do is you wake up first thing in the morning, you pop the cap off, you breathe out, you breathe in, and then it measures like everything going on. It'll tell you, okay, your body is currently burning carbohydrates, your body is currently burning fat. And when you know that information, the next step is like, okay, now what do I do about it? And that's the best part, is it tells you. It's like, okay, here's what you should be eating for breakfast. Here's what you should be thinking about for the rest of the day. You're not left with any questions. It's not like, oh, this is your current HRV number. And it's like, I don't know what any of this means, but okay, thanks for that. No, Lumen will tell you what it means, what to do about it. All of it's easy. Done for you.
Numbers are developed by PhDs, so you can know that every single data point you get back is backed by science.
Well, and everybody knows how hard it is to eat around the holidays. You got Thanksgiving coming up, got Christmas coming up. I know a lot of people are starting to think about their New Year's resolution of, I'd like to lose a couple LBs or something like that. Maybe that's you. Maybe that's, somebody you know. Great Christmas present would be a Lumen. It's just so easy, and it makes it so much easier to track those sort of things than doing something super difficult like meal prepping every single day.
Well, it must be working. You two are trimming down here.
Trying to get svelte.
And I love seeing on Twitter the replies. People who are like, I picked it up. I'm already down like 5 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, it must be working. I mean, you two look like you're going for a photo shoot.
You guys are starting to look like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Jr.
Just trying to make America healthy again.
Cutting out those seed oils.
Ruthless is going to start a calendar here shortly in the new year. That's awesome. No, I appreciate it. So if you want to stay on track with your health this holiday season, go to lumen.me/ruthless and get 15% off your Lumen. That's lumen.me/ruthless for 15% off your purchase. Lumen makes a great gift, too. You should look into that. So thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring this episode. All right. Fellas, I'm not tired of winning.
No.
And I don't think anybody else is tired of winning, judging from what we saw in sport and pop culture.
I've seen a lot of NFL touchdown dances. You doing the Trump dance?
Yeah. And that I can't tell you what a big thing. I mean, look, sports, which has long been the refuge for people like us, you do your day job or whatever, you tune in just to try to escape from all of it. There was this thought process in sports with like ESPN that you catered to a left of center. I don't know how they came to this conclusion, but there was an effort by ESPN and other sort of thought leaders in professional sports broadcasting that everything was sort of left of center, right? Mm-hmm. It was all kind of a LeBron James ideological mindset of anybody involved in sports and anybody else. And you saw that kind of come to a head with the kneeling with Kaepernick and like the big pushback, and all of a sudden ESPN's got to downsize and change all their talents. But you get a pushback of that leftist view. You never get just an outward right-leaning view until now. And it looks like Donald Trump actually broke the pop culture limitations on anybody right of center for expressing themselves in the context of sports. Because you'd said, like, look, the touchdown dances were all over the place.
All over.
College football, professional football. I mean, basically, anytime you have more than 10,000 people in attendance, somebody's doing it.
Yeah.
Somebody's doing the old YMCA.
I'll tell you where the leftward lurch in sports media came from. It came from the exact same place as the leftward movement in news media, and that's New York City.
Yep.
When the bosses at all of these media companies are based in New York, and their politics are as ludicrous as everybody else in New York, except for the ones who live in Los Angeles, whose politics are as ludicrous as everybody who lives in Los Angeles, you tend to forget about everybody in the middle because you just don't come into contact with any of them. Now, thanks to Elon Musk and X, You are the media. Our audience is the media.
Yeah.
And they no longer, New York and Los Angeles, no longer has the same hold over our country as they once did.
I think that's right.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of the same thing as what we saw with, like, say, Bud Light. You know, it's like somebody in the C-suite in New York was like, you know what? It's a good idea to have our spokesperson be this man who pretends like he's a little girl. You know what I mean?
It's so weird.
And it's the same thing with the NFL or any of these sort of. It's just been this. I'm saying it's this whole sort of leftward drift we've had here in the last 5 or 6 years in this country. It's reflected not only in sports and in media and culture broadly.
But I think there's a distinction between what the right has become very good at, which is pushing back on a leftward lurch via Bud Light or ESPN's programming or anything like that. The marketplace for conservatives, they've been able to handle here in recent years in a way that, like, you don't want to get too far afield or you get Bud Lighted. Right? It's different when they're actually making forward progress on this stuff. And when is the last time, if ever, you have seen a Republican president get this kind of treatment in clip 4, please, if you don't mind?
Look, this is so cool.
So UFC champion wins the fight, does the Trump dance, and what you're watching here is him giving the championship belt to a ringside Donald J. Trump. Shaking his hand, getting on his knees, having a conversation.
This was the coolest thing. I don't know if you guys saw the whole thing. So he roundhouse kicks this dude like in the kidney, drops him, right?
Yeah.
And then goes straight into Trump dance. Hops up over the ring, hands the belt. It was just like the most mic drop 60 seconds possible.
And for our audio only listeners, that's John Bones Jones, who is just like a very intimidating UFC fighter.
Yeah, I mean, he's arguably the greatest of all time, and there's the entire arena is appreciative of him doing a Trump dance, giving Trump the. I mean, that just hasn't happened since probably the days after 9/11. When George W. Bush threw out the first pitch of the World Series game at Yankee Stadium.
And it's also the antithesis of that whiny bullshit speech that Barack Obama gave to the black men of America about how they had to vote for Kamala.
Oh, my God, good point.
And it's like, here you got a guy who's like quintessential American masculinity, just wins this fight in UFC. And who does he hand the belt to? Donald J. Trump.
Yeah,
so cool.
Like,
feels
that's
like we're
it.
back.
We're back.
Totally. And then if you want like a little contrast to that, I mean, people are just going crazy. They're loving every minute of this. You're like, but there is a current president of the United States, at least for another couple of months. What's he up to? Let's check out clip 5, please, if you don't mind, Spaghettis. What's going on? You got Biden wandering into a Amazon forest. He's got like his sunglasses out. What's even going on there?
So he said a couple words, right? And then like he's done. He folds the mic, right? First off, like what? What's gonna happen next? He just wanders off into the Amazon.
It's like what? I don't know what are we supposed to take away from that?
Like we're having the same reaction as his handlers, who are like, So what do we do?
Where is he going?
There might be like some jaguars or some boa constrictors in there that are going to eat this dude. Well, like, what are we supposed to do? There was a tweet from Good Tweet Man on Twitter. I highly suggest you follow him. Hilarious guy. He was like, oh, they've re-released him into the wild.
Yeah. I mean, like the backdrop there, it looks like he's on vacation in Hawaii. I feel like this is like an extreme version of senioritis. It's like we got past the election, so he's really phoning it in.
Yeah, he's like, take me to a tropical place. I'm going to go check out some boa constrictors by myself. Oh, man, unbelievable. Well, look, the contrast is pretty evident from where I sit. It turns out some of these nominations have continued to pace, however.
Great picks, nonstop.
I think, look, last week, things moved a lot more quickly than anybody anticipated. And, there's some controversial picks. There's some just no-brainer picks. There's some met with great fanfare. Friends of the program are doing pretty well here. The latest one is FCC Commissioner Brendan Carr was chosen to lead the agency. What an incredible choice.
Best possible pick.
Yeah.
It's just so good. This is according to Axios. President-elect Trump said that the FCC Commissioner Brendan Carr will chair the agency per a Sunday night announcement. Axios' framing of this is that Carr authored the FCC chapter of the Heritage Foundation's Project 2025
Oh, it's happening.
for a second term. Written by the allies of incoming president, he wrote that the FCC should rein in and regulate big tech companies. Okay. Anybody, and you've listened to Brendan on this program
on the show
before. One, if you know him at all, you know he's one of the most thoughtful people on the face of the planet.
Yeah.
This is not some like ideologically driven dude who is just sort of like dreaming up the ways to regulate speech in this country. It's quite the opposite.
Yeah, he's probably one of the most foremost First Amendment advocates in this country, an absolute champion for free speech.
Yeah.
And having him at the FCC is, number one, such a great message from President Trump that first and foremost, you know, the American people spoke. Freedom of speech is incredibly important to them. Brendan Carr is the person you send to give that message that, yes, free speech will be protected.
Yeah, I mean,
country.
free speech is important and fairness is important too. I mean, this isn't just rhetorical that we think this guy's going to be good at this job. He's literally shown us.
Yep.
I mean, in the run-up to the election, when NBC had
Saturday Night Live.
Kamala Harris on, just like tried to, you know, get one past the goalie real quick with some free promo right before the election.
Right.
Brendan Carr,
He was the first to call
was
it
the
out.
first one to call it out on Twitter with a thread. It was just a perfect analysis of what the problem here was.
Of fair use.
Right.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, they have this fairness doctrine, for better or worse, that the broadcast networks need to adhere to. And furthermore, they had talked a lot about not having Trump on in 2016 on Saturday Night Live because they couldn't return the favor.
Well, they set the precedent for not putting a candidate on SNL, right?
Yeah. Which he outlined that night. Mm-hmm. But I think he single-handedly made NBC provide those 1-minute ads at the end of Sunday Night Football and at the end of NASCAR programming, because he called all of it out, and he's sitting in a position of power. He's at the FCC. You can't ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
And also, to Brendan's credit, he was also the first to bring up that, hey, folks, this is a notice. George Soros has bought up all these radio stations across the country. So he is, not only is he incredibly aware and keeps his eye on these very important issues, he makes the public aware of them. He's been doing a terrific job. And in this position, I cannot think of anyone more qualified.
Yeah.
There just simply isn't.
Well, this is just not a thing that will generate all of the headlines or necessarily the outrage of the liberal left. But like, this is the important stuff that like our viewers and listeners need to pay attention to, that this stuff can matter a ton.
Oh, it matters a ton. And if there's ever any question that I have about licensing or broadcasting or spectrum or anything like that, I get in touch with him and he can answer it immediately. There's nobody who knows more about this stuff. Nobody. And it's just great that he's in there. Great pick. All right. You want some variety?
Always.
Yes.
This is a good one, too.
You'll recall we talked a little bit about a South Carolina monkey situation. And there were some that escaped. Well, it turns out that's an ongoing issue. And that was like, was that like months ago? Feels like it was months ago.
It was pre-election.
2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, it felt like it was a long time ago. Well, according to the Associated Press, only 8 monkeys remain free after more than a week outside of a South Carolina compound. Just 8 monkeys remain free from the group who more than a week ago broke out of a South Carolina compound that breeds the primates for medical research, authorities said.
That's reassuring.
Yeah. Well, remember, these are familiar suspects here, and that they are macaques.
Yeah.
And like, you know, it says right here, they were, 3 more were recaptured outside the Alpha Genesis facility. Like, this sounds like some horror movie already. It's oh, you know, it was just, what's his name? Fauci was doing some things.
Well, yeah, that's the thing I'm not quite sure on in this story is like, are these macaques that have been shot full of like, you know, COVID, or are these macaques with a little bit of rouge and some lipstick on? You know, what sort of testing are we talking here?
You don't want to do a lot of experiments with macaque without having some sort of realistic expectation things could go wrong in a hurry.
Yeah.
I also like
I've seen Outbreak.
Reading this, authorities have taken an incredibly high-tech approach here. It says they have been lured back with peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. They're like, how do we get the lab monkeys? Have we tried
Did they
peanut butter and
not?
jelly
Yeah,
sandwiches?
did they not listen to Ashbrook's thing with the banana pool?
That's the thing. Banana pool?
We provided a roadmap for this sort of thing, and apparently we have no listeners or viewers there in the South Carolina Primate Medical Research Lab.
That's an unfortunate thing. It all could have been completely taken care of week one.
This is so. Look at the last bullet point. This is a lot of horrific stuff.
The monkeys are about the size of a cat.
No. Keep going.
They're all females weighing about 7 pounds.
So you've got a bunch of like angry women monkeys.
Oh my God!
Right?
What?
They're the ones that got away.
What does that have to do with it?
It's like you get the guys rounded up by dropping some sandwiches, and they're like, all right, jig is up. Let's just get these sandwiches, right? No, these ones want blood, though. We know what this is about.
If people encounter this is they have a somewhat of a public service announcement about macaque.
Mm-hmm.
If people encounter the monkeys, they're advised to stay away from them, not to fly drones in the area.
What?
That's a very specific thing.
The company said they are skittish and might run away from where they are gathered. Not to fly drones around them? Like these are these
This is not like
monkeys?
legal advice, and this is satire. Drone strike the monkeys. If you have the capability, if you've got a drone, can get the job done. If you see the monkey for the good of humanity, what are these 8 women monkeys up to? They've been in a scientific lab, so clearly they're not in the best state of mind.
As alluring as they may be, do not play with macaque. All right. So, listen, I don't know what to tell you, fellas, but this is going to be a hell of a few weeks. We've got the big Thanksgiving episode coming up. You can be rest assured that we're going to entertain the heck out of you at Thanksgiving. We're already thinking about stuff, and we've already provided you with something you got to have with those Thanksgiving napkins that we'll get into. But I think, the question of the day remains. I'd love to hear an answer. Should Trump kick the mainstream media out of the press briefing room? That's something that could be announced in the next few weeks.
Yeah.
May have some ideas.
I say front row, comfortably smug.
Let's get him in there.
Let's do it.
Let's get him in there. Although, if it's going to be a daily briefing.
I mean, that's the thing. The hours seem kind of tough.
You can send a macaque on Thursdays.
Yeah.
Right? It'd be Smug like Monday, Tuesday, and then we can do monkeys.
But the macaque still gets the first question.
No matter what. No matter what.
I will say, my thought, should he kick them out of the White House briefing room? Yes. Just have them go out the side door. They go into a plane, straight to Gitmo.
Yeah.
Day one. Send a message.
So remember to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're going to be doing this all through the holiday season, and going to keep you updated on everything you need to know and have a lot of laughs in the process. Like and subscribe to that YouTube. Check out our merch while you're there. And with that, I think we did it.
I think so. Absolute banger of an episode. Gentlemen, thanks so much to the Minions. Remember, like, subscribe, and share it with a friend. We're almost at 100,000 subscribers. So until next time, Minions, keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs. We'll see you on Thursday. Stay ruthless.